Who here is excited about the Alabama football team and football almost finally being back for the Crimson Tide? If you are, then you need to subscribe to us here at the Alabama Football Report. We're going to have videos for you all throughout the season breaking down everything you need to know. So hit that sub button right now. Coming up on today's show, three main talking points. A recruiting update, another flip for the Crimson Tide, the wide receiver situation with maybe things still being a little bit dicey, and of course, the quarterback battle roughly a week into fall camp. And that's where we begin with the latest from head coach Nick Saban. Asked about it again from media, he said, "We've had circumstances around here where quarterbacks have changed during the course of the year. You know what they are, you understand the history of what's happened with this place. So that's going to be the way this situation is. Somebody needs to separate themselves, and then all of the quarterbacks need to continue to compete so they improve." That is the reality of what's happened in years past for the Crimson Tide. Whether it be due to injury or due to performance, there have been changes over the years. Last year, Bryce Young got hurt. Jalen Milroe stepped in. 2019, Mac Jones had to step in for the injured Tua. Then, of course, in 2018, they made the flip, both to Jalen Hurts again because of some performance stuff, and also to Tua in that playoff game, right? 2016, it was the Blake Barnett to Jalen Hurts transition. Then who can forget 2015, which maybe is your hopeful, optimistic outcome for this season, given the quarterback uncertainty and the rest of the supporting cast. It was Jake Coker to Cooper Bateman, back to Jake Coker, which are both some great trivia questions and answers for Alabama. So it's a three-man race this year, and I would not be surprised if we saw all three. Jalen Milroe is the leader. He's the incumbent, so to speak, with the most experience on the returning players. He's a great dual threat, but isn't maybe the most consistent of a passer. Ty Simpson might have the most upside long-term. He also barely played last year, was in the A-Day spring game, and hasn't played that much either. Tyler Buchner, meanwhile, is the newest newcomer. He is the transfer from Notre Dame who hasn't had a great results in terms of being able to consistently not turn the football over. That's frankly an issue for all three guys. Keeping the football away from the hands of the defenders, that's going to help determine who wins the job and if they can hold on to it. So who wins the Alabama starting quarterback battle? More on this to come here in a moment, but I want you guys to head down to the pinned comment and get your votes in. TS for Ty Simpson, JM for Jalen Milroe, TB for Ty Buchner. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage. Head down there and go vote. Now, Alabama did have their fan day, and shout out to the person who filmed a bunch of it and posted it for us. Milroe broke a long run in that game, or in that practice, I should say, and that speaks to what he offers. He offers the dynamic rushing ability that can really be maximized in this Bama offense, I suspect, under Tommy Rees. Ty Simpson, meanwhile, looked a lot like what we expect out of Ty Simpson. Some really nice throws, some highs, and some lows, some inconsistency. He's not quite a finished product yet. There's also this very important note to consider, is that the receivers have to find a way to step up. You're not going to get the same volume you would in a Bryce Young, Tua, Mac Jones-led offense. I think it's going to be a bit more run-heavy. So that means a lot of third down opportunities. You got to capitalize on those. Isaiah Bond, part of what we're calling the killer bees for Alabama at wide receiver, hopefully in a good way, not a killing Alabama way. He dropped a wide open touchdown pass. It's not good, right? Alabama has options at the wide receiver room. We mentioned the bees, right? Ja'Cory Brooks, Jermaine Burton, Isaiah Bond, Malik Benson. There are others on this roster as well, but the returning players need to find a way to step up and make a big-time impact. And breaking down this wide receiver room and figuring out who's going to contribute is really not going to be over until much later in the fall, probably early on in the season, much like the quarterback room. I think there are some real open competitions going on. So the first one we're going to begin with here is Ja'Cory Brooks, who is kind of in many ways the leading returning option for the Alabama football wide receiving core. The issues that Brooks has run into, much like a lot of the young players that you see throughout college football, including Alabama, is some of the inconsistencies, where he had 674 yards, you're averaging over 17 yards per catch. That's super valuable. 18 touchdowns, only 39 catches. That's a really awesome ratio to have. The problem is, you had 5 drops in there. Inconsistency, in many ways, was the name of the Alabama receiving corps last year, and Brooks highlights that. He led the team in drops last year with 5 on 39 catches. That's a really bad ratio. He did show up in some clutch moments, Texas, Auburn games in years past, which, again, is the upside. But you have to be more consistent when you're not going to have the same volume of opportunities that you would maybe alongside Tua, etc. More on the Alabama wide receiver room to come, but first, Alabama jerseys are on sale, 25% off. They've got the custom ones so you can, put your kid's last name on there, whatever you want to do, or maybe for a current player. 25% off at chatsports.com/Alabama jersey, or if you're a fan of some players of the past, there are those available as well, including but not limited to Bryce Young. So check the comment section and the description of today's show. It's chatsports.com/Alabama jersey. Some more wide receivers we'll break down here. Jermaine Burton is next up on our list. He had 7 touchdowns on only 40 catches for the Crimson Tide, just under 17 yards per catch, 2 drops as well. Burton never quite lived up to the hype and the expectations, I think, that came along with his transfer from Georgia. When you had Bryce Young at quarterback, I think we were expecting a 1,000-yard campaign from somebody, and that did not happen for Alabama. Isaiah Bond, meanwhile, played a little bit for the Crimson Tide, much more short area of the field stuff. That's reflected in his average yards per catch of just 12.9 with the 1 touchdown. But those are your kind of killer bees there. Bond, Boyd. We'll get to Malik Benson here in a little bit as well. But Alabama needs somebody to emerge. They need somebody to step up and take control of, even if you're not as good as the Amari Coopers, the Jerry Judys, etc. Somebody has to become a viable wide receiver 1 option for the Crimson Tide moving forward. Otherwise, it's going to lead to some disappointment in the passing game. It's not going to be an ideal outcome when you need someone to go get the ball on 3rd down. Maybe that could become Malik Benson, who has had plenty of hype around him, although there have been years past where the wide receiver maybe hype train didn't live up to expectations. He's a 4-star JUCO recruit. He was the number 1 overall JUCO recruit in this last class of 2023. Number 1 ranked receiver, number 1 from the state of Kansas as well. There are a lot of expectations around Benson. Can he emerge? Still remains a bit to be still a bit unseen because he's a JUCO. How good can he really be? Other players to monitor here in this wide receiver room. Kobe Prentice had, again, more short area of the field stuff, under 11 yards per catch. 31 catches, 33 yards. Prentice Boyd could probably play a similar role for Alabama this upcoming season. There are options for Alabama. There are a lot of highly touted recruits or even just 4-stars that would be expected to be the number 1 guy at a different school. Somebody has to emerge this year. And there are other options who maybe we haven't even paid that much attention to in recent weeks and months here on the show. Some younger players who would be nice if they stepped up, but maybe aren't being counted on in the same way. Shaz Preston, the redshirt freshman. Kendrick Law, and a player I am excited about in Emmanuel Henderson. Remember, he was a running back recruit initially for the Crimson Tide. Now he's playing receiver full-time. I wouldn't expect true freshman Jalen Hale to make an impact. It's worth mentioning as well. So I want you guys to be honest with me here. What is your confidence level in the wide receiver group? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1, of course, is on the low end. 10 is on the high end. Get those votes in for me in the comment section. One recruiting update before we go here. Redarius, a.k.a. Red Morgan, has flipped. He was initially committed to Florida State. Now he is committed to Alabama. That is the 17th commit for the Alabama Crimson Tide in the class of 2024. And the 5th defensive back commit was actually back-to-back flips in the secondary. Remember, they flipped a recruit from Georgia the day before. Now Red Morgan commits to the Crimson Tide. Some more on him, just his overall recruiting profile per the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings. He's number 557 overall. He's one of only a handful of 3-stars committed to the Crimson Tide, and he's the number 29 player in the state of Alabama, 54 ranked safety too. So with the updated rankings now, it looks like this. Bama, who less than a month ago was outside of the top 20, top 25 altogether, they are now number 4 with only 17 commits. Georgia's 1, Ohio State is 2, Florida 3, and Florida State, despite losing Morgan, is still in the top 5. This is the end of today's show, so if you made it all the way through and yet you haven't subscribed yet, I don't really get it. You clearly like what we're doing, so change that. Hit that sub button for more free Bama football videos right now.